Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something really interesting, taking a shortcut, maybe, to financial peace. We're actually putting down the spreadsheets for a moment and picking up, well, philosophy.
That's right. We're merging two seemingly different worlds, Stoic philosophy and very practical wealth building. We're using the material from the Stoic Path to Financial Freedom as our guide here.
Yeah, and our mission today is, I guess, to redefine what financial success really looks like. We want to get past the usual things, huge salary, the big net worth number, and really zero in on what gives you true, like, stress-free security.
Mhm.
We're hunting for the way to get that one thing money's supposed to buy, which is the total absence of anxiety, that feeling.
Man, that's such a critical starting point
Yeah,
because the source material really challenges that standard picture of being rich, doesn't it?
it really does.
Most people think, okay, wealth equals high income. But what this approach argues is, no, true financial independence is structural. It's about how things are set up. It's not just hitting some income target. It's about the relationship between your resources and your wants, and crucially, about control.
Okay, let's unpack that central metric, because it feels like the absolute foundation here. How do the sources say you've hit that security threshold? What's the definition?
Well, it defines it with a surprisingly simple formula, actually.
Okay.
You achieve security when your passive income money you're not actively working for is greater than your spending, your burn rate.
Passive income burn.
Exactly. And just framing it like that, it totally transforms the journey. It stops being this vague aspirational thing, and it becomes, well, a measurable problem, a mathematical one you could actually solve.
And solving that equation, what does that really get you? Beyond just the numbers looking good on paper.
Okay, well, first, yes, it delivers that absence of anxiety we talked about. That's huge. But maybe even more valuable, it gives you the freedom, the real freedom to just eliminate obligations, things you feel you should do, but you honestly don't want to anymore.
Ah, okay. Like what kind of obligations?
Well, think about the things you put up with now, right? The job you dislike but pays well, the awful commute, maybe projects you take on, because you have to keep feeding that high burn rate.
Right, you're stuck.
Exactly. But when your passive income covers your burn, those obligations, they become optional. You choose them or you don't. That is real liberty, according to this framework.
And the source material really hammers this home with that comparison, that contrast they draw. It's pretty vivid. They compare the, high-flying investment banker, super stressed, with his dad who earns less but is somehow richer.
It's the perfect story to illustrate it, isn't it? You look at the banker,
Yeah.
maybe he's pulling in $500K a year, which sounds amazing.
That was pretty good, yeah.
But he's terrified. He's got this massive $8,000 mortgage payment, private school fees, maybe 3 car payments, all needed to keep up appearances. His income is huge, yes, but his burn rate is also huge. So he's constantly living on the edge. One bad bonus, one layoff, and it all falls apart.
So the anxiety scales with the income.
Pretty much. His whole financial structure forces him to stay chained to that demanding high-stress job just to service his liabilities.
Okay.
Now, contrast that with the father. Maybe the dad only brings in, say, $70,000 a year.
Okay. Much less.
Much less. But maybe his house is paid off. He lives simply. And his passive income could be from a small rental property, dividends, whatever. It easily covers his, let's say, $2,500 monthly burn.
Right.
The father isn't afraid of the phone ringing. His security isn't tied to his paycheck. His structure provides the security. For the son, the sheer scale of his finances actually delivers stress.
Wow. So the takeaway for you listening is really critical. Security comes from structure and control, not just the size of the income. Okay, so if we're on board with the definition, passive income needs to be greater than burn, how do we actually get there? What's the plan? Because the sources aren't just philosophy, right? They lay out a pretty clear, almost like an algorithm for building wealth, 4 pillars.
Exactly. This is where we shift from defining it to actually doing it. And the sources are very pragmatic here. They say you need different tools for different parts of the job, tools to increase that passive income and tools to shrink the burn rate.
Makes sense. Okay, let's tackle the offense first, the income side. Pillar 1 is called focused effort. What does that mean exactly? Does it just mean, grinding 80 hours a week?
Not necessarily grinding for its own sake. They're clear about that. Focus means channeling your energy into a career with high potential, something that maximizes your leverage and the value you create, not just the hours you put in.
Okay, so value creation, not just time input.
Right. It's about intentionally choosing work that scales, that pays well because it's valuable,
Mm.
rather than just doing average work for average pay.
Hmm.
You're essentially building the engine, the thing that will generate the capital you need later for those passive income streams.
That's a key distinction. Be strategic, not just busy. Okay, engine secured. Now let's pivot to the part we arguably have more direct control over. The spending, the burn rate.
And that brings us neatly to pillar two, which is really the philosophical heart of this whole thing, stoicism and saving. This is where that ancient wisdom gets kind of weaponized for modern finances.
Okay, but why stoicism? I mean, we know we need to save, we need to budget. Why drag Marcus Aurelius into our bank statements?
Well, it's because controlling your spending, your burn, might be the hardest part,
Mm.
especially today.
Mm.
We live in a consumer culture that is literally designed from the ground up to make you want more and spend more.
Yeah.
So saving, really saving consistently, takes serious internal discipline. You have to manage your own desires, resist keeping up with the Joneses, avoid that lifestyle creep where your spending just naturally rises with your income.
Right, that's tough.
It is. And Stoicism gives you the mental toolkit, the framework to see all that stuff, the fancy car, the bigger house, as externals, things that don't actually impact your real internal well-being. The sources argue that practicing Stoicism lets you genuinely look at that shiny new thing and say, I don't actually need that to be okay. I don't need it to be whole.
So it allows for intentional limits.
Exactly. Intentional constraints. In fact, many Stoics actively practiced and recommend periods of what they call voluntary discomfort, like deliberately living way below your means for a bit.
Mm. Why?
Does two things. First, it psychologically prepares you for any potential financial bumps on the road. You know you can handle less. Second, it reinforces that inner resilience, that knowledge that your happiness isn't tied to consumption. And that is incredibly powerful financial protection, psychologically speaking.
That really connects the dots, doesn't it? It shifts saving from feeling like deprivation to feeling like...
Like a discipline, a strength. Okay, so pillar one, focus for income. Pillar two, stoicism for controlling the burn. Now, pillar three, what's the big force multiplier here? The thing that ensures we eventually cross that finish line where passive income is greater than burn.
Right. This is where the sources say we need to appreciate the almost magical power of time and compound interest.
The snowball effect.
Exactly. It's just pure math, but it's incredibly powerful. The money you save and invest today is dramatically more potent than the money you save 10 years from now.
Yeah, the sources really emphasize that people underestimate this because the gains look so small at the start. You don't see much happening for a while.
Right. It's not exciting initially, but it's the one factor that truly separates long-term wealth from just perpetually working for a living. It stops being about you making money and starts being about your money making more money all by itself while you're doing other things. Or sleeping. And relying on time like that, it demands patience, doesn't it? Which I guess links back to Stoicism again.
It absolutely does. Another core Stoic virtue.
Yeah.
You have to accept that this wealth algorithm, it's likely a multi-decade project, not a get-rich-quick scheme. You can't let yourself get rattled or distracted by every little up and down in the market day to day. You need that long view.
Okay. Focus. Stoicism time. That brings us to the final pillar, number 4, which sounds like defense. Protection. How do they define financial protection in this algorithm?
Protection in this context is primarily about diversification. And again, there's a link back to Stoic principles here.
How so?
Well, remember the goal. True security, that absence of anxiety. You simply cannot achieve that if your entire financial life depends on everything going perfectly right all the time. The world is too chaotic for that.
Yeah, unlikely scenario.
Very. Stoicism teaches you to focus on what's within your control. You can't control the stock market or interest rate hikes or, global events, but you can control your exposure to any single one of those things going bad. Diversification is just the practical way you do that. You spread your investments out, so if one part of the market tanks or one company fails, your whole future doesn't tank with it.
It's like an insurance policy built into the structure.
Precisely. It secures the emotional goal, the security, by mitigating external risks you can't control.
Got it. Okay, so the 4 pillars seem really clear and actionable. Focus for income generation, stoicism to manage spending, leverage time for growth, and use diversification for protection. But then the sources take it a step further, and this is where I found it got really fascinating. They suggest that pulling this off, achieving real financial success, isn't just about the math or the market strategy. It actually requires character. They call wealth creation a full-person project. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a really profound insight, isn't it? It implies that financial failure isn't always just about bad spreadsheets or unlucky market timing. It can actually stem from, well, poor character choices.
Okay.
Well, the specific traits the sources highlight as necessary for this full-person project are things like generosity and character. Specifically, integrity, honesty.
Right.
And importantly, this isn't framed as just, being a nice person for moral reasons. It's presented as a pragmatic necessity for long-term success.
Why? How does being generous help your bottom line?
Because, the argument goes, you need to effectively collect crucial allies and opportunities over the long haul.
Okay. But isn't that just networking? Like sophisticated networking? Why frame it as character? That seems a higher bar.
I think it's because basic networking can often be quite transactional, right? What can you do for me? But demonstrating genuine good character, being known as reliable, honest, maybe generous with your time or insights, without expecting an immediate return that builds deep trust. And trust leads to what you might call asymmetric information flow. People want to help you. They bring you opportunities that quiet tip-off, the first look at a deal, the heads up about an internal role, things that just never appear in public listings.
So your character becomes like a magnet.
Exactly. A magnet for compounding opportunity, not just compounding interest.
And the flip side.
The flip side is, if you lack character, if you develop a reputation for being selfish or cutting corners or being unreliable, you actively repel those allies and opportunities. The sources suggest poor character doesn't just mean you grow slower, it actually creates active liabilities. People might work against you. When things get tough in the market, you find yourself isolated.
It undermines the diversification pillar in a way. Your personal risk goes way up.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Your professional risk profile skyrockets because people don't trust you or want to associate with you when chips are down.
Wow. That completely reframes things like honesty and generosity. They're not just soft skills or nice-to-haves. They become core components of a resilient long-term wealth strategy.
They're pragmatic tools for building a robust financial life.
Okay, so let's try to pull this all together. The key takeaways for you listening today. First, true financial security isn't about the income number. It's defined by that simple equation. Passive income burn. That's the target.
Yeah.
And achieving that target delivers the ultimate prize, the absence of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Second, there's a clear algorithm to get there, built on 4 pillars. Focus on high-value work for income. Use stoicism for the discipline to control spending. Leverage time and compounding. And implement diversification for protection.
Yeah, that covers the practical side. And what's powerful is how the source material blends those external actions, the algorithm, with the necessary internal work. That's the stoicism, the character, the generosity needed to actually execute the algorithm effectively, managing both sides of that equation. It really forces you to look at yourself, not just your bank balance.
Right, it's a holistic approach.
It really is. And that brings up a final, maybe quite provocative question for you to think about after this deep dive is over. If true wealth delivers this absence of anxiety, when does that anxiety actually disappear?
Does it vanish the moment your passive income spreadsheet number technically ticks over your burn rate? Or does the anxiety truly dissolve only when you've mastered the internal stuff? The stoicism needed to control your desires, the character that builds resilience. Is it possible that the internal work delivers the feeling of security long before the numbers officially confirm it? Something to ponder.